What's up everybody, this is Danny, and today I'll be doing a camera comparison that a lot of you have been asking for, and that is the Galaxy S22 Ultra versus the Google Pixel 6 Pro. So what we're going to do is we're going to test these out in every condition, and we're going to see which one comes out on top. Let me know what video looks better, and let me know what audio sounds better. Let's just go and jump right into it. Both of these take fantastic daytime pictures as you would expect, but there are a few differences, so let me tell you what I saw after looking at a ton of images side by side. The first thing that I noticed is the control of the exposure. In highlights, there are times where I found the Pixel 6 Pro to have better control of these two things. In most scenarios, you'll probably see a boost in the shadows with slightly brighter image on the S22 Ultra, so if you like this type of processing, then you'll probably side with the Samsung. I know I covered this on some of my other videos, but you can see that the HDR processing does need to be updated on the S22 Ultra. The Pixel 6 Pro has gotten a few camera updates since launch, and I'm sure over time Samsung will fix this since they have done such a great job with last year's Galaxy S21 Ultra on this front. Hopefully Samsung will patch this up soon, and if they do, I'll definitely let you know, but for now you can take advantage of the Pro mode built into the S22 Ultra. You get Pro mode on all cameras this year, and you can capture RAW from all of the lenses too, and you can dial in for that perfect shot if you have the time for it. They really do go back and forth though, so I can't generalize every shot. In this one, the chain and the contrast punch is heavier on the pixels, so I like that more. But here, I love how bright and vibrant the yellow is represented, and they both have great natural depth of field. But I think on normal general landscape shots like this one, the image looks nearly identical besides the Samsung giving off a little bit richer blue in the sky. I think some will appreciate the flatter colors of the Pixel 6 Pro sometimes, like on this flower shot. I know brighter and vibrant usually wins, but I prefer the Pixel here. But again, I think it will heavily come down to personal preference. It's one of those cameras where you can almost guarantee that you can get an amazing shot. It also makes stylistic shots like this super easy with action pan mode. It's not perfect at all, but it can be fun trying to get the best shot. I think where the cameras separate themselves is in the flexibility and the choices in the camera system. First is the zoom range. The Pixel does have a 2x first zoom choice, but that's a crop, so I skip that most of the time and go straight to the 4x optical, where the S22 Ultra has a 3x as the first choice. Then here is the 10x optical zoom on the S22 Ultra and 10x hybrid or digital zoom on the Pixel, and while the Ultra does look better, dang, that is way closer than I thought it would be. And then here is the maximum 20x zoom on the Pixel and 30x zoom on the S22 Ultra. The Samsung looks amazing for such a large zoom, but the Pixel is also very impressive. And of course, you can go up to 100x zoom if you need to on the S22 Ultra, which is insane, and that actually looks pretty good. The second one is the higher resolution feature. The S22 Ultra has a 108 megapixel sensor, which you can take full advantage of, and while most people won't be cropping in like this, it is nice to have. You really can't tell until you punch in super heavily like at this 1000% scale crop, but look at this brick detail after such a heavy crop, it's really amazing. The only downside of this is you do lose some dynamic range and you get some different processing. Take a look at this water tower. It's really clipped, so I'm hoping that they will tune this in the future. But again, with the crazy crop, look at that brick detail. It's still intact. Google really needs to open up the 50 megapixel capture so we can take full advantage of that sensor. Third is the ultra wide. The Pixel's ultra wide is good, but the S22 Ultra's is much wider and you can get so much more in the frame. I won't harp on this because it's a hardware limitation, but the Pixel's ultra wide is not ultra wide enough, so I hope next year they give us something a little bit wider. The fourth notable thing is macro mode. Depends if this is important to you or not, but the feature is not on the Pixel, so you'll have to use the 4x optical if you want to get close up. It might not be a big deal, but it's a feature that a lot of people like. The next topic is portrait mode, and I know it's important to a lot of people, so I wanted to test this out. The crop on the portrait mode makes it a little harder to get a wide portrait shot, which isn't a big deal, but this was shot from the exact same distance. And contrary to many people's beliefs, I feel that the Pixel's portrait mode is hit or miss. I think other manufacturers have gotten better at it. Look up here, I think Samsung does a better job. In this shot, I know that my face is definitely softer on the Samsung, so some might not like that, but it does have a more stylistic look to it. And if you look at the cutout around my face, the Ultra does a better job. And even though that the Pixel 6 Pro looks great here with the extra saturation on the skin, I prefer the S22 Ultra skin tone here. And I also think that Samsung's background blur is better here too, so let me know what you think. I think that Samsung's gradual roll-off bokeh is more natural and it's better here. And the 3x portrait mode is arguably one of the best on the market right now, but I do have to say that the Pixel does a better job with motion blur with portrait mode. You can see that my son is blurrier because he was moving. So let me know how you feel about this portrait mode battle. Before we jump into low light, let's talk about daytime video. They both take great daytime video, but you'll notice that the Pixel's video is more saturated and more colorful. This will be personal preference, but in certain scenarios, the Pixel looks really great. Here's more of a general scenario. Take a look at the sky. You can see that the Pixel is more saturated, but it's not as drastic as the last example. But besides that, this makes me so happy that the Pixel actually has good video during the day. If you're a Pixel user, then you know what this means. Remember, the S22 Ultra does shoot in 8K in 24 frames per second with a healthy crop, but you can get some extra resolution and they can produce some great video during the day. I wouldn't use this at night, but if you notice, it does give you some great shadow detail and a little flatter profile, which I really like. I don't think it's a big deal right now, but the Pixel 6 Pro is capped at 4K 60 frames per second. Here is a walking video sample in 4K 30 frames per second. This is handheld video, and if you notice, you can see that light flare coming from the sun there on the Pixel 6 Pro, and that's not just coincidence. You'll see that later on in nighttime video, but in terms of stabilization, they are both doing a good job, so let me know if you can see a difference in the comment section below. Okay, so let's jump into low light, and this is a really interesting one because they are both good and bad in certain ways, and this could look one-sided to some, but there's a huge caveat that we can't dismiss. So with just single snap without night mode, I found the Galaxy S22 Ultra to produce a brighter shot all around, but that does come with the cost of extra noise, and you can see that in the sky, where the Pixel 6 Pro takes a more contrasty approach to kill the noise. When you kick in night mode, they both brighten up the shot well, collecting lots of detail in the building, but punching back in, you can see that the noise reduction is blotchier on the S22 Ultra, and the sky is nice and smooth on the Pixel 6 Pro. Here's another one again. Look at that single snapshot. So much brighter on the S22 Ultra, more shadow detail in the foreground, which is really impressive. But punch in and you can see that this does come at a cost again with a little bit more noise. But in this one, I don't mind because it isn't too different. Here is the night mode shot, and now the Pixel 6 Pro in with the brighter overall image. And when you punch in, you can see that they both cleaned up the noise nicely. So this one is close. The reason why this one was so hard to call is because in this test, they just kept going back and forth. With single snap on this one, the Ultra looks fantastic. There is more noise in the sky again, but look at the shadow detail here on the Ultra, where it's crushed by the Pixel. But in this one, the Pixel is so much brighter with crisper white balance, so I can see most people siding with the Pixel 6 Pro here. The reason why I mention white balance so much because the differences can be so drastic, like at the tail end of the sunset, the Ultra's warmer white balance does a better job here without night mode, and then now with night mode, the Pixel 6 Pro's cooler shot is more accurate. None of them actually nailed it, but the Ultra really picks up a ton of red here, but I do prefer Samsung's approach to the sky rendition. I am betting that a lot of you will prefer the cooler white balance of the Pixel 6 Pro, and in this one, I like it better as well. Where in this shot, I really like the Ultra's rendition because it keeps the lines in the walkway a white tone, which is correct, where the Pixel is pushing it too blue, and it's also messing with the colors of my family's clothing here. White balance differences are definitely more noticeable indoors, like I said in other comparisons. The S22 Ultra lands too warm a lot of times, and you can see that here, but again, it goes back and forth. Look at the Pixel 6 Pro here, picking up ton of red and oversaturating my daughter's skin tone. So this camera test was all over the place. But if I had to call it on main sensor night mode shots on a lot of these pictures, I found that the Pixel 6 Pro's imaging to be cleaner and sharper. This is a complex shot with a ton of different textures and lighting inside Animal Kingdom Lodge, and they both look fantastic, but when you punch in, you can see that there's a difference in detail pickup. You can see the differences here. And going back outside again, check out this night mode shot and how smooth the sky is here. Very impressive, and props to Google for improving their camera software since launch. But, and this is a big one, and an area where they didn't improve is the exposure time. In that shot you just saw, check it out. The Samsung only took 2 seconds to expose, where you can count the extra seconds, 3, 4, 5. I mean, that is more than double the time, so a lot of the times you'll have to keep still for way too long, and that can give you results like this, where even on shorter exposures on nighttime can give you motion blur because of how long this takes. And I can show you examples all day of how long the exposure times take on the Pixel 6 Pro, and it's a major problem, and not for the outcomes of the photos because you can see that they are good, but for the experience of the camera at night. And the darker it gets, the worse it gets. Now granted, this is extremely dark here where the animals roam at night at the resort, and you can see that the S22 Ultra exposes for about 4 seconds, which is long for the Ultra, but then you can just keep waiting for the Pixel 6 Pro where it goes for about 2 to 3 seconds more. And here are the results, and surprisingly the Ultra was better here with a shorter exposure, but that's not always the case. If you absolutely do not care at all how long you have to wait and you do have steady hands, then a lot of times you will get a better image with night sight. Again, without night mode and just single snap, I think Samsung is the clear winner, but with night sight enabled, the Pixel 6 Pro can just work magic turning night into daytime. So if this is the result that you're going for, you're going to love the Pixel. One more here to bring it home, single snap on the S22 Ultra all day, then night mode kicks in and the Pixel 6 Pro can absolutely be wild with the results. So if you can hold that phone still, this is an awesome image. When it comes to the ultra wide, it can be a little bit different. Samsung is a mess here on this single snap with all kinds of blurriness, but when night mode kicks in, wow, it does a great job with sharpness and it handles the exposure well on the rocks here, and it's keeping it looking more like nighttime, so I see the potential here. Look at how much better this night shot looks on the S22 Ultra, but I'm not sure if that has to do with the optics or just the flare control with bright lights. To show you that example, here is a flare test in the same area, and you can clearly see that the Pixel has worse light flare pickup at night, so it's not only the iPhone that can cause the flares as well, other phones have it, and I know a lot of you guys wanted to see this test. It's not a deal breaker though, because here's what it looks like in an indoor environment with some light sources. I don't think that you'll notice it in every shot. I do want to hear from you that might have a Pixel 6 Pro right now. Do you find it to be a problem? Let me know in the comments below. Let's talk about the front-facing camera before jumping into video, and in this scenario, the S22 Ultra's warmer white balance is working, keeping my skin tone intact with some color, where the Pixel, I do look washed out. In this scenario, the slightly colder white balance here I think works better for the Pixel, where the flatter approach on the skin brightens it up slightly. The S22 Ultra does have a 40 megapixel mode, and that works really well in low light in my opinion. This is just single snap and no night mode on the Pixel 6 Pro. Same here on this one. While the Pixels looks decent, it does smoothen the skin out, where the S22 Ultra, it does show more detail and is more accurate to the scene because it is darker inside this hotel. So 40 megapixels is the way to go at night. Here is portrait mode on both, and I personally like the S22 Ultra here. So let me know what you think and which one that look better. With general nighttime video, the Pixel 6 Pro usually produces the better looking video. It is sharper and it has less noise with a little extra vibrancy, so I think if you're a video shooter, you might want to go with the Pixel 6 Pro at night. Samsung did improve their video this year, but it still has a long way to go. Look at how milky this footage is, where the contrast and color is maintained on the Pixel 6 Pro. I do have to say that the Pixel is one of the most improved when it comes to video. Last year's was so bad, and they really stepped it up. So Samsung, if you're watching, some further tuning to the night video is welcome. But remember, you do have Pro mode video, so you can always just lower the ISO for a better result. Where the Samsung does win though is on the zoom. The 3x video compared to the 4x video is literally night and day. Just look at how terrible the Pixel's 4x video looks. So Google, if you're watching this, please improve this, because look at the pixelation and artifacting. Wow, the detail isn't bad, but this needs to be fixed. And if for some reason, if you wanted to see the 10x optical in low light, here you go. In dark conditions, I really wouldn't use it unless you absolutely needed it. Where Samsung also comes out on top is the stabilization at night. The Pixel 6 Pro's video is much brighter here and has nicer white balance, but I don't know if it's the combo of the electronic stabilization on the Pixel, but you can see the jitters and wobbles pretty easily if you're looking, where the Ultra does a smoother job in this test. And even though I'm not walking very fast, you can see the difference. So like I said, this one just keeps going back and forth. So what did you guys think? Are you confused yet? To make this easy and concise, if you want the most features and choices, pick the S22 Ultra. You can get portrait mode video, and it works surprisingly well in mixed lighting. As you can see here, it's consistent with the background blur. During the day, I think it's going to be preference based, but if you went with the Pixel 6 Pro during the day, I wouldn't be mad at that. But again, if you need the flexibility of the extra zoom, the macro mode, the wider ultra wide camera, pro mode on photos and video with raw capture from all the lenses, the 108 megapixel high res shots, then I think it's a no-brainer. But the Pixel is a more straight point and shooter and easy to use, is consistent for the most part, giving you images that you can count on and arguably giving you better nighttime results. And if you have a tripod, astrophotography can absolutely be mind-blowing. Look at that image, the stars are so crisp. It did take 4 minutes, but it's totally worth it. If I had to pick one, I would pick the Ultra solely for the flexibility and the nighttime experience. I really don't like waiting that long for nighttime exposures, and that alone would make me choose a different phone if I had the choice. If Google can fix that in the future, then I think it would be a different story, but the Pixel 6 Pro really impressed me here. Even though it's been out for a while, it really kept up well. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Which one would you use? Team Pixel or Team Galaxy? Thank you for watching. Make sure that you watch all of the S22 content. Check out the playlist up above. So much more goodness there for you to enjoy. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this, and I will see you in the next one.